Welcome back to our program. The National Association of Women Judges is the nation's leading voice for women jurists dedicated to maintaining a free and fair judicial system. Its Informed Voters Project is a nonpartisan voter education campaign developed to, among other things, increase public awareness about our nation's judicial system. Last month, the NAWJ released a new public service announcement featuring retired Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor to remind all of us that politics has no place in the country's courts. Take a listen.
Our Constitution is celebrated as the backbone of our democracy, but our Constitution cannot survive without fair and free courts.
Americans look to their courts for fairness, free from the influence of politics and partisanship.
Learn how you can help keep our courts fair and free at the Informed Voters Fair Judges website, or join the conversation on our Facebook page.
Our courts are what they have always been and must always be: fair and free.
An important message there from former Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. And joining me this morning is the chair of the National Committee for the Informed Voters Project, attorney Linda Leali. And Linda, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
being here. Now, I was looking through some of your organization's material, and one of the topics that you bring up is your concern for a threat against our court system. What do you see as the biggest threat right now that's facing the fairness of our court system?
So what we're seeing throughout the country and in Florida as well is that there is a large influx of out-of-state money and special interest money that's flooding into the judicial campaigns. And this is directly as a result of the Supreme Court's decision in Citizens United. And so what we're seeing is that this influx of money is actually having a direct impact on decision making. So for example, what we're seeing is if there's money flooding into criminal appeals, right, that we might find that the judges are ruling unfavorably against defendants in criminal appeals. And likewise, what we're also seeing is that the more money that goes into business interests, that business interests are putting into the judicial elections, that we also find that the judges in those cases tend to find more favorably in front of for businesses.
This is alarming. What do you think we can do about this? Because if money is influencing our judges, who are supposed to be impartial arbiters of the law, then what's the answer?
So what's important is for the citizens to get informed when they go out to the polls. So, you know, the judges have a role in our court system of preserving the integrity of the court system. Right. But citizens also have a role. It's very important for them to, when they go out to the polls, it's just to not vote for a particular judge because they're not aware of who that person is, but they need to take an active role and get informed ahead of time.
But do you feel that that's the case for a lot of people who go to the polls and they do take an interest in the races and what's running and what are some of the questions, but when it comes to the judges, they just see names? Do you get a lot of that?
I do get a lot of that.
And what do you tell people when you hear that?
Right. So I do get a lot of that, and I get a lot of that from very educated people. And so we tell them is there's a lot of resources for you to go out and get informed. The first one that I would say is the Informed Voters website, which is ivp.nawj.org, has a lot of resources. So in particular in Florida, there's a Florida page where you can go on the website and look at the judicial biographies and find out information about the judges that are up for either election or retention.
What about the bar associations? Do they sometimes recommend or not recommend certain candidates?
That's true. That's an enormous resource. Many of the bar associations, so for example in South Florida, the Dade County Bar Association or the Cuban American Bar Association conduct judicial polls, and those polls are invaluable for finding out, you know, how the lawyers are perceiving the judges that go in front of them.
And when the judges are on the ballot, sometimes they're on there to whether or not they're re-elected or whether or not they're retained. And do you see them both equally as important?
Well, so just kind of backing up a second, just to give you a general overview of the system, our county and our circuit court judges are elected. And then we also have the appellate judges and the Supreme Court justices. They are going through a completely different system. Essentially what happens is that they are reviewed by a judicial nominating commission who then will recommend their appointment to the governor, and the governor will then appoint the judges. They are then put up for a 2-year 2 years later, they're put up for retention. And so what we call is that's merit retention. So when a voter goes out to the ballot, what they're going to see is either a yes, we want to retain that particular individual in that role, or it could also be a no. And so that's generally what our merit retention system is in the state of Florida.
Okay, so again, what's the resource, the best resources for voters when they want to know more about judges who are on the ballot?
So there is, like I mentioned, the Informed Voters website. There's also the local bar polls, but in addition to that, you can ask lawyers that you may know, or even the Florida Bar website has some additional information that is also very helpful.
Getting the information before you get to the polls is so important, and especially in this race when it has to do with such an important part of our system in this country, right? Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Linda
much.
Leali, thanks a lot for joining us on Focus.